Picture this. A Navy commander stands on the weathered porch of her childhood home, the tang of Maine's salty air mixing with the warm scent of a fresh blueberry pie in her hands. Her uniform gleams with medals earned through courage and sacrifice, but when the door opens, her father's voice slices through her hope like a nor'easter's gale. "What's that trash on your chest? You think that'll save this family?" This is Eleanor Caldwell's story, Nora to those who know her heart, a tale of betrayal, resilience, and a secret so shocking it will keep you glued to every word. Don't miss this journey of triumph over heartbreak. Hit that like button. Share your own stories of returning home in the comments, and subscribe for more tales that stir the soul. The fog rolled thick over Rockport, Maine, cloaking the jagged coastline, as Nora Caldwell steered her rental car down the familiar gravel drive. At 30, she was no longer the quiet girl who'd memorized tide charts to escape the chill of her family's indifference. Now a Navy commander, her chest bore the weight of a Navy Cross and Bronze Star, earned through sleepless nights and perilous missions in the Persian Gulf. She'd stopped at Sullivan's Bakery, a weathered shop her father, Leonard, loved, to buy a blueberry pie, its warmth a fragile promise of the homecoming she dreamed of. In her mind's eye, her mother, Evelyn, would fling open the door, arms wide, the kitchen alive with laughter. But as Nora stepped onto the creaking porch of the gray-shingled house, a knot tightened in her gut, colder than the November wind off Penobscot Bay. Leonard loomed in the doorway, his fisherman's build unyielding, his eyes like storm clouds brewing over the horizon. "You're back," he grunted, his voice rough as rusted anchors, no trace of warmth. Evelyn lingered behind him, her hands twisting a faded dish towel, her face etched with unease. Clara, Nora's older sister, leaned against the wall, her silk blouse gleaming against the peeling paint, her smirk sharp as a fishhook. The silence was a heavy, living thing, pressing against Nora's shoulders as if her uniform, her pride, her proof, made her an intruder in her own home. Nora forced a smile, holding out the pie. "That your favorite, Dad? Blueberry, fresh from Sullivan's." Evelyn's fingers twitched, but Leonard swatted the air, his gaze zeroing in on Nora's medals. "What's that trash?" he snarled, jabbing a finger at her chest. "You think that'll pay the bills? Clara's got a gallery opening, real money coming in. You're out there playing hero." His words detonated like mines, each one shredding Nora's hope. She looked to Evelyn, desperate for a spark of love, but her mother turned away, wiping her eyes. Clara's smirk deepened, a silent jab. The pie's warmth burned against Nora's hands, mocking the coldness of the room. Her Navy training surged. Stay calm, compartmentalize, but a deeper question clawed at her. Why am I never enough? She set the pie on a cluttered side table, the act a quiet defiance, a refusal to beg. Leonard's voice chased her as she turned to leave. "You're a letdown, Eleanor. Always will be." The door closed with a soft click, but in Nora's heart, it slammed shut on the family she'd longed to reclaim. The fog thickened as she drove to a motel on Route 1, its neon sign flickering like a dying star. In her room, the air reeked of mildew and lost dreams. Leonard's words, "let down, trash," echoed, but something else stirred. In her duffel, beneath her folded uniform, was a faded photo, Nora as a child, alone on the dock, the sea stretching endlessly before her. Tucked in its corner was a note in unfamiliar handwriting, "Seek the truth." What secret was her family hiding? Nora's fingers tightened around the photo, her resolve hardening. This wasn't the end. It was the spark of a battle she didn't yet understand, one that would unravel a truth buried deep in her family's past. The fog of Rockport's rejection still clung to Nora Caldwell as she drove away from her family's cold welcome, but the pain of Leonard's words, "let down, trash," wasn't new. It was a wound carved deep in her childhood, each scar a reminder of a home where she was always invisible. Picture a young girl, her walls bare while her sister's room gleamed with praise, her victories tossed aside like driftwood. Nora's story isn't just about surviving a family's neglect. It's about uncovering a secret buried in their silence, a truth that could rewrite her past. Stay with us as Nora's journey unfolds, each step pulling her closer to a revelation that will shake her world. Growing up in the weathered gray house by Penobscot Bay, Nora was a shadow in her own family. Her room, painted a dull eggshell, held only a rickety desk and a dog-eared atlas, its pages marked with dreams of far-off places. Across the hall, Clara's room was a shrine, walls draped with ribbons from art fairs, shelves gleaming with awards for her vibrant paintings. Leonard, a fisherman hardened by years at sea, and Evelyn, worn thin by his temper, poured their pride into Clara, their golden girl. Nora, quiet and studious, was the afterthought, her achievements dismissed as unimportant. At 15, Nora poured her heart into debate, her quick mind and steady voice winning her the state championship. The local paper, the Camden Herald, ran a photo of her holding a modest trophy, her smile wide with pride. She taped it to the fridge, her hands trembling with hope that Leonard might finally see her. By morning, it was gone, replaced by a flyer for Clara's upcoming gallery show. Nora's heart sank, but the real blow came later, when she found her article crumpled in the trash, smeared with fish oil and buried under coffee grounds. She confronted Evelyn, her voice shaking. "It was just taking up space," Evelyn said, her eyes avoiding Nora's. "Clara's art is her future, Nora. Debate's just a hobby." The dismissal stung, but the betrayal deepened a year later. Nora kept her debate trophies in a shoebox under her bed, each one a testament to late nights memorizing arguments and early mornings practicing in the mirror. At 16, she came home to find the box empty. Leonard, polishing his fishing gear in the garage, didn't look up when she asked where they were. "Sold 'em," he said, his voice flat as the tide. "Clara's gallery show needs funding. Those trinkets weren't doing you any good." Nora's breath caught, her world tilting. Her trophies, proof of her worth, had been traded for Clara's spotlight. Leonard's eyes met hers, unapologetic. "Family sacrifices, Eleanor. Clara's our investment." The word investment burned. Nora wasn't a daughter. She was a cost, her value measured only in what she could give up. That night, alone in her room, she found something else. A yellowed letter tucked inside her atlas, hidden behind a map of the Pacific. The handwriting wasn't her mother's or father's, but its words were cryptic. "The truth lies beyond the horizon." No signature, no explanation. It felt like a lifeline, a hint of something her family was hiding. Was it tied to their favoritism, to why they saw her as disposable? Nora clutched the letter, her resolve hardening. She wouldn't beg for their love anymore. At 19, she made a choice that would change everything. She enlisted in the Navy, trading the suffocating air of Rockport for the open sea. The letter stayed with her, folded in her pocket, its mystery a quiet fuel for the battles ahead. As she packed her bag, leaving behind the gray house and its ghosts, she didn't know what truth she was chasing, but she felt its pull, like a tide drawing her toward something bigger. Leonard's voice echoed, let down, but Nora's heart whispered back, "Not anymore." Her enlistment wasn't just an escape, it was a declaration. The Navy would be her proving ground, a place to forge a worth they couldn't sell or ignore. But the letter's words lingered, a puzzle she couldn't yet solve. What was her family hiding? Why had they chosen Clara over her? As Nora stepped into the unknown, the sea breeze carrying her away from Maine, she carried that question with her, a spark that would one day ignite a fire her family could never extinguish. The salt-stung air of Rockport faded as Nora Caldwell traded her childhood shadows for the roaring chaos of Navy training in San Diego. Imagine a 19-year-old, barely 5 feet 5 inches, standing firm against a sea of towering recruits, her heart pounding not with fear but with defiance. Leonard's voice, calling her a letdown, echoed in her mind, but a cryptic letter tucked in her gear whispered of a hidden truth. Nora's journey through the Navy's crucible wasn't just about survival. It was about forging a new self, one her family couldn't erase. Every grueling moment pushed her closer to unraveling the secret buried in her past, a mystery that keeps you wondering, what's she fighting for? San Diego's training base was a world of relentless heat and crashing waves, the air thick with diesel and salt. Nora arrived wide-eyed, her duffel heavy with little more than her atlas and that mysterious letter. The truth lies beyond the horizon. The Navy's boot camp was unforgiving. Drill instructors bellowed like tempests, their voices shredding any weakness. As one of the few women in her cohort, Nora felt eyes on her constantly, some skeptical, others mocking. "Little Sparrow," a recruit sneered during formation, his buddies chuckling. Nora's jaw tightened, but she didn't flinch. Leonard's rejection, "You're a letdown," was her fuel, burning hotter than the California sun. The first week was hell. 5-mile runs left her gasping, her lungs screaming in the humid air. Her boots, stiff and new, tore her feet into blisters, each step a lesson in endurance. At night, on a bunk hard as driftwood, she stared at the springs above, her body aching, her mind drifting to Rockport's quiet docks. But Leonard's face, his sneer as he sold her trophies, snapped her back. She wouldn't break. She wrote home weekly, her letters full of small victories, mastering a knot, passing a swim test. Evelyn's replies, when they came, were thin as sea foam. Clara's painting won an award. Stay safe. No pride, no questions. Just silence. One stormy afternoon, seeking refuge in the base library, Nora found a worn biography of John Paul Jones, the Navy's fierce revolutionary hero. His words, "I have not yet begun to fight," struck her like lightning. Honor wasn't a gift from her family. It was something she could forge herself in sweat-soaked runs and perfect salutes. She stopped craving Evelyn's approval, focusing instead on the respect of those beside her, recruits who saw her grit, not her gender. By week 6, she was outpacing half her platoon, her voice steady as she led drills. That cryptic letter haunted her, though. She found it again in her gear, tucked inside a photo of herself at 10, standing alone on Rockport's dock, the sea vast before her. The handwriting wasn't familiar, but its weight felt personal, as if someone had meant for her to find it. Was it a clue to why her family cast her aside? During a rare, quiet moment, she studied it under a flickering barracks light, the words pulling her like a riptide. Beyond the horizon, was it about her origins? A secret Leonard and Evelyn guarded? The question gnawed, but the Navy gave her no time for answers. Graduation day dawned bright, the San Diego sky endless blue. Nora stood ramrod straight in her crisp whites, her platoon's top recruit. The stands overflowed with families, cheering parents, snapping cameras, but hers were empty. Leonard, Evelyn, Clara, none came. Yet Nora felt no void. As her name echoed over the loudspeaker, Seaman Eleanor Caldwell, distinguished honor graduate, she didn't scan the crowd for their faces. She looked to the horizon, where the sea met the sky, feeling the letters weight in her pocket. This was her fight now, not theirs. As she marched off the field, a drill instructor's nod felt more like home than Rockport ever had. But the letter's mystery lingered, a quiet pulse beneath her triumph. What truth was out there, beyond the horizon? Nora didn't know yet, but every step through training had steeled her for the battle ahead, not just against the Navy's trials, but against the secrets her family hid. As she boarded a bus to her first duty station, the letter pressed against her heart, a promise that her journey was far from over. The horizon that called to Nora Caldwell during her Navy training now stretched before her in Norfolk, Virginia, where the sea's endless rhythm became her refuge. Imagine a young sailor, her heart scarred by a family's rejection, finding a new home among those who shared her sweat and sacrifice. Eleanor Caldwell, Nora to her squad, had traded Rockport's cold silence for the Navy's fierce camaraderie, but a cryptic phone call from her sister, Clara, stirred the ashes of her past. What secret was her family hiding? Nora's journey through loyalty and betrayal pulls you in, each moment laced with the promise of a truth that could shatter everything she knows. Norfolk's naval base, buzzed with the hum of ships and the clang of steel, a world of purpose that felt worlds away from Maine's gray shores. At 21, Nora was a petty officer, her uniform crisp, her resolve forged in San Diego's crucible. Stationed with the destroyer squadron, she faced new challenges. The weight of her tools, the skepticism of older sailors, the constant hum of engines. Some called her minnow, a jab at her slight frame, but Nora worked twice as hard, her hands steady on radar screens, her mind sharp in drills. Her platoon sergeant, Captain Amos Reed, saw her grit. A Texan with a voice like gravel and eyes that missed nothing. Amos became her anchor, a mentor who valued her for who she was, not who she wasn't. One humid afternoon in the engine room, a machinist named Carter smirked as he accidentally spilled grease on Nora's boots. "Clean it up, Minnow," he taunted, his buddy snickering. Before Nora could respond, Amos stepped in, his presence silencing the room. "Carter," he said, his tone low but lethal, "you'll scrub those boots yourself." She's your shipmate, not your punchline. Carter's face flushed as he grabbed a rag, muttering apologies. Nora stood tall, her heart swelling, not from the victory, but from Amos's defense. For the first time, someone had stood up for her, not as a favor, but as a duty. Her 22nd birthday fell on a gray November day, and Nora braced for another quiet ache, expecting nothing from Rockport. In the mess hall, her tray of lukewarm chow mein sat untouched, the loneliness sharp as a winter tide. Then Amos and his wife, Lila, appeared, their smiles warm as a lighthouse beam. "No sailor eats alone on their birthday," Lila declared, whisking Nora to their off-base home. The air was rich with roast chicken and pecan pie, their kids' laughter filling the small dining room. Nora helped wash dishes, her heart full, feeling like family for the first time. Amos's words as he drove her back. "We take care of our own, Caldwell," settled deep, a promise stronger than blood. But the past wasn't done with her. Late that night, her bunkroom phone buzzed, a rare call from Rockport. Clara's voice was syrupy, unnatural. "Nora, just checking in. Mom's been off lately. You doing okay out there?" The words felt rehearsed, a hook baited with something unspoken. Nora's guard went up, the memory of that cryptic letter. The truth lies beyond the horizon, flashing in her mind. "What's wrong with Mom?" she asked, her voice steady. Clara hesitated, then laughed it off. "Oh, just tired. Call her sometime." The line went dead, but Clara's tone lingered, a puzzle piece that didn't fit. Nora pulled the letter from her locker, its faded ink a quiet challenge. Was Evelyn hiding something? Was Clara's call a lure to pull her back into their web? The next day, she showed the letter to Amos, who studied it with a frown. "Sounds like family business, Caldwell. Be careful. They don't call when they don't want something." His words echoed as Nora returned to her duties, the ship's hum steadying her. Her squad, gruff, loyal sailors who shared her sweat, were her family now, their respect earned in grease-stained hours and midnight watches. But Clara's call, and that letter's mystery tugged at her, a current pulling her toward a truth she wasn't ready to face. As she stood watch under Norfolk's starry sky, Nora knew her fight wasn't just for honor, it was for answers, and she'd find them no matter the cost. The Norfolk night sky, dotted with stars, held Nora Caldwell steady as she stood watch, but a storm was brewing, not at sea, but in her heart. Imagine a Navy commander in Bahrain's blistering heat, her phone buzzing with a voice from the past that drips with false sweetness. Clara, her sister, begs for a favor, but it's a trap, laced with lies and family secrets. Nora's story pulls you deeper, each twist tightening the knot of a hidden truth that could unravel her world. What's her family hiding, and how far will they go to keep it buried? Stay with us. This betrayal will leave you breathless. Stationed in Bahrain, Nora was now a lieutenant commander at 27, her days filled with the hum of naval operations and the weight of command. The desert heat was relentless, the air thick with sand and tension. She led her team through high-stakes missions, her focus razor-sharp, her Navy Cross a quiet testament to her courage. But the cryptic letter from her childhood, the truth lies beyond the horizon, still lived in her locker, its mystery a constant pulse beneath her disciplined life. She built a family with her sailors, anchored by Captain Amos Reed's mentorship, but Rockport's ghosts refused to stay buried. One sweltering evening, after an 18-hour patrol, Nora's satellite phone buzzed in her command tent. Clara's voice came through, slick with charm. "Nora, little sister, you're doing big things out there, huh? Real hero stuff." The flattery was a red flag, too smooth for the sister who'd smirked at her homecoming. Nora stayed silent, her instincts honed by years at sea. Clara's tone shifted, low and urgent. "I've got a deal, a waterfront condo project in Portland. It's a gold mine, but the bank needs a co-signer. With your Navy record, it's a sure thing." "Just a formality." Nora's got twisted. "A formality?" In a war zone, nothing was that simple. Clara pressed on, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Mom's not well, Nora. Her heart's weak. This deal could secure her care, let Dad retire." The mention of Evelyn's health hit like a squall, but Nora caught the rehearsed tremor in Clara's words. "Hold on," Clara said. "Mom wants to talk." Evelyn's voice was frail, practiced. "Nora, honey, your father's so stressed." This project could save us. You owe us this. Owe them. The words were a hook, barbed with guilt, pulling at the girl who'd once taped a debate trophy photo to the fridge. Nora ended the call with a vague promise, her mind racing. She dialed Amos, now a Master Chief stateside, and laid out the situation, her voice clinical despite the ache. Amos didn't hesitate. Smells like a trap, Caldwell. Let me dig. His contacts uncovered the truth. Clara's gold mine was a desperate bid to cover her own financial ruin, failed art ventures, maxed out loans. The family's plea was a lie, using Evelyn's health to bait Nora's stability. But Evelyn's voice had held something else. A pause, a coded hint. Look to the past, she'd murmured, almost inaudible. Was it a clue to the letter's truth? Fury, cold and sharp, settled in Nora's chest. This wasn't just manipulation, it was betrayal, her family willing to sink her future to save Clara's. She called Clara back, her voice steel. The answer's no. I'm not signing. Clara's charm dissolved into venom. You're selfish, Nora. Always were. Then Leonard's roar took over, familiar and raw. You're no daughter of mine. The line went dead, but Nora felt no pain, only release. The tether to Rockport snapped, but Evelyn's cryptic words echoed, a puzzle piece tied to that letter. What was her mother hiding? Was it about Nora's place in the family, or something deeper? As she stepped out into Bahrain's starlit night, the desert air cool against her skin, Nora clutched the letter's photo, the dock, and see a reminder of her childhood questions. Amos's warning rang true. Her family wanted something, but so did she answers. The Navy had taught her to face threats head-on, and this was no different. Whatever truth lay beyond the horizon, Nora would find it, and it would be on her terms, not theirs. The fight was far from over, and the sea's steady rhythm promised a reckoning just out of sight. The desert stars over Bahrain faded as Nora Caldwell's resolve hardened, her family's betrayal a fresh wound but not a fatal one. Picture a Navy commander in a shimmering gown, stepping into a glittering gala, her heart clinging to a fragile hope of reconciliation. But instead of a welcome, she's met with scorn, her service mocked in front of a sparkling crowd. Eleanor Caldwell, Nora to her sailors, stands at a crossroads, her family's cruelty clashing with a whispered hint of a deeper secret. What truth is buried in their past, and how will Nora turn their rejection into her triumph? This moment will grip you, pulling you toward a revelation that's closer than ever. 3 years after Clara's manipulative call, Nora, now 30, was a commander stationed in Norfolk again, her career a steady anchor. The cryptic letter, the truth lies beyond the horizon, still lived in her locker, its photo of her childhood dock a quiet mystery. Her Navy family, led by Amos Reed, had given her strength, but an invitation arrived from Rockport. Clara's charity gala for her art foundation, held at a lavish seaside hotel. Despite her better judgment, Nora saw a chance, a flicker of hope that her sister's success might soften their family's edges. She spent a month's pay on a floor-length emerald gown and a handcrafted glass sculpture as a gift, determined to show she wasn't the failure Leonard branded her. The gala was a spectacle of chandeliers and clinking glasses, the main coast glittering beyond the windows. Nora arrived, her gown catching the light, her medals replaced by quiet pride. She scanned the crowd for Evelyn, hoping for a mother's smile, but found only Clara's poised figure at the head table, radiant in designer silk. Leonard held court beside her, his laugh booming, while Evelyn sat quietly, her eyes darting nervously. Nora approached, the sculpture heavy in her hands, but the table was set for 8. Clara, her sponsors, their parents, no room for her. Clara's eyes met hers, not with warmth but with irritation. "Oh, Nora, you came," she said loudly, her tone dripping with disdain. "I thought you were busy saving the world." The crowd's eyes turned, a soft ripple of laughter following. Leonard leaned back, his grin sharp. "She's used to roughing it on those boats," he boomed, winking at the table. "Find a corner, Eleanor." The words hit like a rogue wave, knocking the air from Nora's lungs. Evelyn looked away, her hands twisting her napkin. Nora stood frozen, a ghost in green silk, her service reduced to a punchline. But then a guest, a silver-haired woman in pearls, leaned close, her whisper sharp. "They don't talk about the adoption, do they?" Adoption? The word was a spark, igniting the mystery of the letter. Was Nora's place in the family a lie? Her training kicked in. Stay calm, assess the threat. Nora's eyes locked on the guest, but the woman melted into the crowd. Quoting Maya Angelou, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them." Nora set the glass sculpture on the gift table, its delicate curves a silent farewell. She turned, her gown sweeping the floor, and walked out, the Gala's music fading behind her. The night air was crisp, the sea's rhythm steadying her. This wasn't just rejection, it was a declaration of war. The whispered word adoption echoed, tying to the letter's cryptic promise. What had her family hidden? Was she not their daughter? In her hotel room, Nora pulled out the photo, the dock's faded planks staring back. The letter's words burned brighter now. Beyond the horizon, the guest's whisper was a clue, a thread to a truth her family had buried. Nora's heart raced, not with pain, but with purpose. She wouldn't beg for their love. She'd demand answers. Amos's voice echoed in her mind. They don't call unless they want something. This gala wasn't a peace offering. It was a stage for their cruelty, but Nora was no longer their audience. As she packed her gown, her mind sharpened, planning her next move. The truth was out there, and she'd find it, not as their daughter, but as the commander she'd become, ready to face whatever storm lay ahead. The sting of the gala's humiliation still lingered as Nora Caldwell drove through the night, the main coast fading behind her, but a new fire burned within. Imagine a Navy commander, her uniform crisp, standing in the White House, her name about to echo across the nation. Eleanor Caldwell, Nora to her sailors, had turned her family's rejection into fuel, but a leaked document threatens to unravel a secret tied to her very identity. This moment is electric, a triumph that exposes her family's failure while pulling you closer to a truth that could change everything. Stay with us. Nora's victory is a storm you won't want to miss. Back in Norfolk, Nora, now 32 and a captain, had risen through the Navy's ranks, her leadership honed in the Persian Gulf's crucible. The cryptic letter, the truth lies beyond the horizon, and its dockside photo stayed with her, the gala's whispered hint of adoption a puzzle piece she couldn't place. Her family's cruelty had forged a resolve, but a new opportunity arrived, an email buried in her inbox, announcing her nomination for the Presidential Medal of Freedom for her strategic work in counterterrorism. At first, she dismissed it. Medals had sparked Leonard's scorn, but Amos Reed, now retired and advising in D.C., saw a chance. "This isn't just a medal, Caldwell," he said. "It's a weapon. Use it." Nora prepared with military precision, compiling a dossier of her family's betrayals, Clara's manipulative call, Leonard's sale of her trophies, Evelyn's complicit silence. She shared it with Amos, her voice steady but her heart racing. "They need to see who I am," she said. Amos nodded, his eyes granite. "They'll see, and they won't forget." Days before the ceremony, a courier delivered a shock, a leaked document, and signed, detailing a closed adoption in Rockport, dated the year of Nora's birth. It named no parents, but the timing was unmistakable. Was she adopted? Was this the truth her family hid? The ceremony fell on the same day as Leonard and Evelyn's 40th anniversary, a lavish brunch at the same seaside hotel as Clara's gala. Nora knew they'd be there, toasting their pride in Clara's art empire. She arranged a subtle nudge, a text from an old Navy contact to Clara's husband. Tune into C-SPAN. Big news from D.C. As Nora sat in the White House's East Wing, her dress blues immaculate, the weight of her medals, Navy Cross, Bronze Star, felt like anchors, not burdens. Amos, beside her, squeezed her hand. "Ready, Captain?" She nodded, her breath steady, the letter's photo tucked in her pocket. The ceremony, broadcast live, was solemn, the room thick with dignitaries. The president stepped to the podium, his voice resonant. "Today we honor a leader whose courage and brilliance have saved countless lives." Nora's heart thundered as he continued. "For her strategic genius and gallantry, I award the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Captain Eleanor Caldwell." The room erupted in applause, but Nora pictured Rockport. Clara's champagne flute slipping, Evelyn's hand at her mouth, Leonard's face frozen as the daughter he called a letdown was hailed a national hero. The leaked adoption document flashed in her mind. Was this why they'd cast her aside? The question burned, but the president's words grounded her. He pinned the medal around her neck, his voice low. "This nation owes you, Captain." Nora saluted, sharp and sure, not for the cameras but for herself. Her family's brunch, with its lobster and smug toasts, was now a stage for their shame. The world saw Nora's truth, not their lies. As she stepped back, the applause a steady roar, she felt the letter's weight. The adoption hint was a thread she'd pull later, but this moment was hers, a beacon exposing her family's darkness. Back in her D.C. hotel, Nora's phone lit up with missed calls from Rockport. Clara, Evelyn, even Leonard. She let them pile up, her silence a choice, not their weapon. The document's mystery loomed, a final battle on the horizon. Nora wasn't just a hero. She was a hunter, closing in on a truth that could redefine her past. As she stared at the city's lights, her resolve was steel. She'd face whatever came, not as their daughter, but as the captain who'd claimed her own legacy. The White House's applause still echoed in Nora Caldwell's ears as she returned to Norfolk, her Presidential Medal of Freedom a shining testament to her worth. Imagine a Navy captain, now retired, standing by a quiet Vermont lake, her heart finally at peace, yet a final clue in the ashes of a burned letter hints at a truth that could redefine her very existence. Eleanor Caldwell, Nora to those who knew her soul, had turned betrayal into triumph, but the mystery of her family's secret lingers, pulling you toward a resolution that's both serene and electrifying. This is Nora's final stand, a moment of closure that will leave you inspired and curious for what lies beyond. Retiring at 33, Nora left the Navy's structured rhythm for a small log cabin on Lake Champlain shores, its pine-scented air a balm to her battle-worn heart. The world of deployments and command posts faded, replaced by the soft lapping of waves and the rustle of leaves. She'd carry the cryptic letter. The truth lies beyond the horizon, through every mission, its dockside photo and the Gala's whispered adoption a puzzle unsolved. Her family's calls after the White House ceremony, Clara's pleas, Evelyn's sobs, Leonard's demands, went unanswered. Nora's silence was her shield, forged from years of their neglect. She found purpose mentoring young female sailors through a veterans program, guiding them to translate their skills into civilian lives. Their stories of doubt, resilience, and hope mirrored her own, each session a reminder of the family she'd built in the Navy. One crisp autumn day, a mentee, Petty Officer Lila Vance, visited the cabin. Lila's eyes shone with newfound confidence, her voice steady. "You taught me I'm enough, Captain," she said, her gratitude humbling Nora. From a wooden box on her mantel, Nora took a challenge coin, its brass cool and heavy. "This isn't a gift," she told Lila, her voice firm but warm. "It's a duty. Pass it to someone who needs it." Lila's hand closed around it, tears glinting, and Nora felt her legacy take root, not in medals, but in the strength she shared. That evening, cleaning her cabin, Nora found a sealed envelope in an old sea chest, its paper yellowed, addressed in Leonard's jagged scrawl. It was the letter he'd sent after she'd hung up on him, unopened for years. She kept it, perhaps out of a lingering curiosity, a final question mark from Rockport. As dusk settled over the lake, she built a fire by the water's edge, the flames crackling against the cool air. Holding the letter, she felt its weight, decades of pain, dismissal, and lies. She didn't need its words. Her worth was no longer tied to Leonard's regret or Evelyn's apologies. With a steady hand, she placed the envelope in the fire, watching it curl and blacken, the flames consuming her past. As the ashes rose, a fragment caught her eye, a singed scrap with faded ink. "Not your blood." The words, half-burned, hit like a shockwave. Was this the adoption truth the Gala guest hinted at? Was Nora not their daughter? The lake's calm surface reflected her thoughts, the mystery sharper now. She didn't flinch. The Navy had taught her to face the unknown, and this truth, whatever it was, would wait. Her peace was here, in the quiet of her cabin, in the lives she touched. Nora stood, the fire's glow warm on her face, her heart steady. She was Captain Eleanor Caldwell, a leader, a survivor, a mentor, not defined by Rockport's secrets, but by the life she'd built. Her cabin's single light glowed as she walked back, a beacon of home. The letter's ashes scattered over the lake, their mystery a whisper she'd chase another day. For now, Nora was enough, her name, her legacy, her truth. The stars above Champlain shone bright, promising a future she'd shape, one resilient step at a time. The fire by Lake Champlain died to embers as Nora Caldwell stood, her silhouette framed against the water's quiet shimmer. She'd burned the past, letting its ashes drift like stars over the lake, each one a piece of the pain she'd carried from Rockport. Eleanor Caldwell, Nora to those who saw her heart, had forged a home not in the gray house of her childhood, but within herself. The Navy had been her crucible, her sailors her family, her mentorship her legacy. The singed scrap, not your blood, hinted at a truth still out there, but it no longer held her captive. Peace wasn't in solving the mystery, it was in knowing her worth, unshaken by Leonard's scorn or Clara's lies. Her cabin's warm light beckoned, a symbol of the life she'd built, steady, solitary and whole. Nora's story isn't just hers. It's a beacon for anyone who's felt unseen, urging you to claim your own strength. Share your journey in the comments below. Your voice matters. Like this video, subscribe, and join our community of resilient hearts. Together we rise.